I do want to ask you about narcissism real quick, because I know that you did a recent podcast around that, and you actually have like a connection between depression and narcissism that I am really curious. What would that connection be?
Well, we have a lot to say about that, but one of the things that we talked about anxiety and kind of hyperactivating, and Sue mentioned depression and deactivating, and relatedly, sometimes individuals who tend to, as a general sense, deactivate and become more of an avoidant. They don't avoidant, kind of a dismissing type of attachment. Don't turn to other people necessarily, because they don't necessarily see people as reliable, and so that can add to a lot of criticism of other individuals. But also, where we don't, when we're in that state, turn to other people for a resource. When something can happen, maybe a loss, and we don't really have a social network, we're not used to doing social engagement, and we need it. It could really lead to an underlying depression that's not really recognized.
Right, and to the narcissism question, and you were kind of getting to this, is that that there's two kinds of narcissism, and one is the one that you notice and see all the time, the grandiose narcissism, where the sense of self they're the same thing, but the sense of self, again, it's relying on other external for validation. And the other kind of narcissism that's more hidden is what we call negative narcissism or depressed narcissism. And it's the flip of the coin. So it's that whole, I'm the worst piece of crud on the earth, which is still very special. Yeah. And so the good news is that no matter, like, that they're really, and notice too, it's very self-absorbed. Like one of the things as you were talking, when you're saying, yeah, get out for these other reasons, but it's also like, get out of yourself, you know? It's like, there is a world out there. We have this responsibility. And again, I hope that doesn't come across as shaming, but negative narcissism, you end up in this loop where that, again, think of it, it's self, I mean, I'm kind of even doing it right now as I'm talking, like you're focusing on yourself and how bad you are. And that's the exact opposite of being up here and then getting people to focus on how good you are. And so in every grandiose narcissist, there is a shame-faced, red-faced child that feels humiliated. Mm-hmm. And in a way, one way to get to people up here is to see that part. But the same thing is true for the negative narcissism, which is what I'm tying that into depression, is that you know, when you just feel like such a piece of crud, first of all, that is super self-involved. And, you know, and then also, usually inside the sort of shame-filled narcissist, there is the desire or the thought that you're supposed to be bigger and better. And, you know, and that's some of why you're so low. And so for both of them, the idea is, again, integration of like, you don't have to be up in the pedestal and you're not such a piece of crud. You're really just normally bad like all of us. And for me, I find comfort in that when I'm depressed and I just think, I feel so gross and all that stuff. It's like, I'm not any more gross than, you know, my neighbors on the left and right. I'm just happen to be feeling that in this moment.
And it's a really important reminder. And I don't think you're being shaming. I understand the worry is that sometimes
to get out of ourselves
when we're feeling so bad, and in depression, one of the deepest aspects of depression is really a lot of self-loathing. Mm-hmm. It can be a nice reminder that being there and being self-loathing, it's a nice reminder to go, wait, if I imagine that an aspect of inverted narcissism, it helps relieve of us that. It's like, oh,
I can't be that bad.
Right. Yeah.
There's a relief in that context to kind of come up. And it's you alluded to, it's really important to remember that if you're around somebody who tends to have the other type of narcissism, where they feel grandiose and maybe, especially in conflict, they always think they kind of know and they're right. It's really easy to be rejecting of that. Mm-hmm. And it's really important to remember, like Sue said, underneath that individual is somebody that actually is very insecure and typically highly, highly self-critical. Mm-hmm. And because getting in touch with those emotions has been too difficult for them and they've cut off, when they do tap into it, they really need somebody there so don't believe that they don't need people, because they need people just as we all need people when we're over there just as much as anybody else. We just don't let ourselves feel it. But when somebody that tends to land grandiose gets in touch with their feelings, they literally need so much support. And they're there because they haven't believed that other people could be there for them. So being able to be there for them really is healing.
So a couple of quick hacks, right? We talked about altruism. We talked about that, which is kind of like, it's, I don't know how to say that, but it's probably not personal, whatever it is. It's, like check your narcissism and at least if you're below the baseline, at least put yourself even with baseline to evaluate yourself.
Right. You're not unique. You're not special. We all have it, right?
And I find that so relieving. It really is. It's kind of like the teenager with a little acne or something. You know what I mean? And that's a great example of negative narcissism. And if they can really just get that they're one of 50 people with some embarrassing something somewhere, then they're going to do better. So that's really the message. It's not to make fun of us. But the third quick hack is that if you find yourself, since we've been talking about both of these related to attachment has to do with preoccupation. So if you find yourself, you just do a little scale and you could think, okay, how much right now am I thinking about my cognitive pie? Am I thinking about other people versus myself, right? Scale of 1 to 10, say it's a 7 or an 8. I really need that person to call me back, whatever it is. Well, that's not going to help you. If you want to get better with your depression or your narcissism, then you need to do the work. You're not going to just feel better. And so part of the work is, okay, wait, I'm doing that thing where I'm overly orienting externally. And so let's see, how do I get my number down? How am I doing?
Right. How do you balance it?
Am I, should I be the one to make you pull it back in. And then with depression, it's the other way around, right? So you can become so self-absorbed that you've lost track of that you're a member of a community, you're a part of the world, you're in this earth and universe and you're connected. And so increasing your trying to move your scale to that connection and outside of yourself, from the intrapsyche to the interpersonal. You want to make that move, and so either way of those is you scale them, and then even just scaling them gives you metacognition where you can think about it. So do something good for somebody. You're not that specially bad. And use the scale and any techniques to help you raise awareness so that these automatic negative associations aren't happening. And probably learn about attachment, actually.
Right.
And can't go wrong there.
Right. That's right.
AVAIYA has changed my life.
AVAIYA has made me the woman I am today.
AVAIYA is my home.
AVAIYA is personal freedom.
AVAIYA is the reason my life continuously improves.
Let everyone in your life know about AVAIYA.
Everyone needs to know about this amazing company.
Thank you, AVAIYA, for appearing in my inbox.
What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at AVAIYA is what the world needs.